We're at the midway point of the combat sports calendar in 2025. It's been a wild first 6 months. A lot still to be determined from the standpoint of the business end of things. But as we look, a lot of media outlets, of course, are putting out their half-year awards, Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year at the midway point. Let's try a little something different by looking ahead. This year is indeed half over. So what do you want to see, Luke, in combat sports for the remainder of 2025? This could be fights, events, rule changes, more breasts on TV, whatever you're into.
Titties.
Put together a list, when we both did, of our top 3 biggest priorities for the rest of the year.
So I thought a lot about this one. I got a wish list.
I got 3 as well, because that was the assignment.
All right.
You're like, I got 17 because I'm Luke
Well,
Thomas.
I was thinking, I was like, is there a rule change I'd like to see go through? Is there some kind of, special event? But like, Canelo Crawford's going to scratch a few of those itches. So no.
I could have put that on there, just the fallout of Canelo Crawford and what that can do to UFC stadium fights, which is...
You seem to be a big believer that could do a lot.
I do.
Yeah?
Those are cultural events, dude.
I agree.
Those are time and place.
I've said this, dude. Canelo Crawford being on Netflix and the way it's going is exactly what American boxing needs. But it's already on the list, so I can't necessarily...
All right, why don't you give me number 3? What do you got
for
me?
All right, for number 3, this is aspirational.
Yes.
Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall.
Let's go.
Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall.
Let's go.
Who the fuck doesn't want to see that?
What? Okay, if that was to happen in the second, or not even just to happen, but to be announced in the second half of 25, what would have to happen for that to become a reality? Would Francis have to end the PFL deal in some form?
Yeah.
That's the only way.
He would, which would not be great. But
and then they'd have to tell Dana, you're sitting this one out.
Oh, you mean TKO?
TKO would be like, Dana, you're kind of out on this.
The issue with that is Francis can do well on pay-per-view, but not necessarily as the A side. He works well as a very good B side. So I can see why TKO wouldn't necessarily put pressure on Dana, but let's just put that to the side. Co-promotion we know is not going to work, but it's at least conceivable that with 6 months-ish left in the year, you could get Francis back in UFC. Tom Aspinall even said this week, there ain't many guys out there for him to fight. I think he even said the division's not exactly on fire. Yeah. He knows. Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall, it would not last very long. But for as long as it lasted, like BC on prom night, he's going to give you all the pumping he's got. I would love to see Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall. That's my number 3.
That is a great one for number 3 right there. I like that. All right, number 3, it's very simple, even though I broke the rule in the opening topic of the show, and I break it regularly. As a collective fan, media member in combat sports, but specifically UFC, less talk and jockeying about John Jones and Conor McGregor, more talk and jockeying about Ilia Tapori and Islam Makhachev. And obviously that plays into the idea of, hey, UFC, promote your stars, build 2 big fights. I want to be looking at Ilia versus Islam as the UFC's version of Mayweather-Pacquiao. It's probably going to take over a year to build to there due to them being in separate divisions and Islam needing to fight for that welterweight title. But Luke, I fall victim of this all the time. Oh, it's a dead, it's an in-between week. What are we going to talk about? Oh, well, Conor just tweeted this. John just tweeted this. As Rick Pitino once famously said, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish are not coming through that door. Okay, Larry Bird not coming through that door. Their era's over. They've worn out their space in the headlines. Let's build up what we have now. And what we have now, whether you're talking about Ilia and Islam, Jack Della Maddalena, like there's a new breed that's here. DDP is breaking out as a star. Marab, although he's in his mid to late 30s, is on top of his game. Let's build the next stars of the future, and let's build the roads to get to those big super fights. And obviously Ilia versus Islam is a big one in that regard. Can we put the past away, Luke? Because I do wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend.
I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. There you go.
Cut ties with all the
Hey,
lies.
Oasis came back this weekend, did they not?
Yeah. Wild weekend. Black Sabbath's last show ever. Oasis makes a big return, and people are emoting like crazy over
it. Was the soundtrack to my teens. I don't mind a little Oasis. Yes. I like Oasis. All right, can I go number 2? Well, not in my seat. Not in my seat.
Sir, this is Joseph A. Banks. Yeah, sure, over there.
Dude, I have to go back there and then commemorate the shit with another one. That'd be so fucking great.
Did I tell you that story?
What?
We used to vacation when I was a kid in New Hampshire, Lake Winnipesaukee, as a lot of people did, right? Laconia, New Hampshire, that whole area. My dad used to go out there for motorcycle trips every year. He always told us as a kid about this place, this ice cream place called Sawyers. in which
Sawyers,
one time
okay.
he absolutely tore up. Like he said people were coming into the restroom and then going, "Oh my God,"
Yeah,
and like
just
walking
retching,
out.
yeah.
Like he tore up one time like a Joseph A. Banks style, like quadruple flusher. And he told us for years about the Sawyers Massacre. And he's like, one of these days we're going to go back there. We're going to go on vacation. I'm going to show you the spot of the Sawyers Massacre, which is just, growing up white trash. These are things you care about.
I like how he's treating it like a slave rebellion that belongs in the history
Yes,
books.
like come see this historic location where he almost killed someone.
Oops. All right, sorry about that.
We show up a couple years later, okay, at this Sawyers ice cream place outside of Lake Winnipesaukee. And I'm like, Dad, where is it? We walk inside. He's like, hold on, I'll show you. It's over here. We go over to where the bathroom door was. The door is still there, but they've painted over it and they moved the bathroom. And I'm like,
Wow.
Dad, you really did shut it down. This is incredible,
Dude,
right?
He forced them to relocate the commode.
He forced them to remodel the entire building.
You know what?
Or at
You
least
know
that's
what?
the
You know
legend he
what?
tells.
Respect to a proud patron.
Yeah, please,
Respect.
please, respect.
By the way, I took a dump here before the show, and I get out, and I had to go wash my hands. There's a guy who pissed, who had an open drink like this, like with a can, and left it on the counter. I'm like, dude,
Particles.
I just farted
Particles.
like straight up AIDS into the air, and you're just drinking that in?
You're just straight up form freedom. All right, give me your number 2, please.
Number 2. It's aspirational, BC. It's aspirational. With the minimal time we have left, and I know one of these guys has, well, both of these guys are supposed to have fights coming up, but I guess we'll see. But before the end of the year, my aspirational wish list, Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson.
Let's go.
Right? How could you go wrong with this one? In fact, these two guys I think are the best in class in this general weight vicinity, let's put it. We know Tank is supposed to fight Lamont Roach in August, but that even hasn't been formally announced. I don't know if that's going to happen. Shakur has a fight coming up this weekend.
William Zepeda, yeah.
Where Turkey is doing shit posting around it, and it's very annoying.
What's going on there?
I don't know. But this is the one that's most interesting because Shakur to me is more skillful than Tank. But Tank is, I think, underrated in his skill and clearly the dominant puncher between the two. How this one would go to me is very, very interesting. And certainly for the American boxing fan and this audience, this would be a real, like Canelo Crawford. I'm not saying it'd be the same level, but like that, a nice shot in the arm to really get it going again. Tank versus Shakur is on my wish list.
Okay, I love that. And it ties perfectly into my number 2, which is the rejuvenation of American boxing. I need a shot in the arm of American boxing. And that can be a few things. It can be a soft landing for the prominent American boxing promoters that right now, as we look at the state of boxing's broadcasting landscape, we don't know where Top Rank's going to go after their ESPN deal concludes at the end of this month. You hear rumors about PBC's future. Luke, obviously for all of these American promoters, we'd love a soft landing for them and their fighters. And I think just in general, look, Saudi's playing a big role in this. Turkey's playing a big role in boxing. And we can get on certain parts of it that we don't like, but it's doing a lot of good in the same regard. But are fights like Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin Haney better off in Riyadh, or are they better off at the Barclays Center, right? Or are they better off at Phillips Arena and State Farm Arena in Atlanta? Like, my whole point is there are ways we can reinvigorate American boxing again. Maybe Canelo Crawford in Las Vegas will be a big part of that, but I'd like to see the health restored. Turkey's Ring Magazine series has been on American soil almost exclusively, except for that first one with Eubank and Ben. And it's not that the U.S. needs to be the center of the boxing universe at all times, but when you do disregard it, we know about the competition. People are like, why does the U.S. not support their homegrown boxers like they do in the other smaller countries? Because the competition field is too wide for people's attention in pro sports, scripted TV shows, all of that.
Yeah.
There are some things that can be done subtly to rebuild the strength of American boxing. And some of that, Luke, is the reputation of the core key young American boxers. It's been a rough time for the Four Princes, the 5-6 Kings, the Four Horsemen, whatever the hell you want to call them. All of them have had their own kind of setbacks of late to either the reputation or on their record. I'd like to see a return for these guys in a big way to get back to not just their winning ways, but to make big fights and particularly do them on U.S. soil in big arenas in which the fans can show up. I mean, I'm not against the Turkey experiments of Times Square in general. That one turned out to be a failure for the boxing portion of it. But let's get it right in the States. Let's make boxing big again. And if this is Turkey's season to control boxing, then let's put on really big events in the U.S. like he's a big part of with Canelo Crawford and let's
But
continue.
not in Alcatraz. Like,
Not in Alcatraz.
Just do it in a way that's accessible, yeah?
I mean, I don't even need this tennis stadium, although, like, it's a unique effort. He's going to give it a try. Let's see what happens. But let's go back to, like, if Ryan Garcia's fighting, let's do it in the States, in a city where people are going to turn up. Let's make American boxing healthy.
Yeah, and I think to do that, to me, it's like, I understand that, like, Times Square and Alcatraz, these sound exotic, but I don't know how well that works, I think what's going to work a lot better is, to your point, Barclays Center, MSG, places that fans know and love and are suited for this kind of a thing. You put on great fights and you put them in big venues, I promise you everything is going to go healthy all the way downstream. All right, BC, for my number one, y'all convinced me. I put my ear, in the words of Good Will Hunting, I put my ear to the grindstone. I listened.
Okay.
I was convinced on this one.
You went to therapy?
I went to.
It's not your fault, Luke. It's definitely not your fault, all right?
In all seriousness, I would love in 2025, if by January 1, 2026, we can say, you know what was so fucking awesome about this year? How about Ilia Tapori versus Islam Makhachev?
Oh, God.
Come
please,
on.
Please.
Let's go.
It doesn't even have to fall into this calendar year. Show us that you're building the bridge to it.
If they could even, like, in December, in February, whatever, we're gonna do Ilia and Islam. I would even take the confirmation of the news in 2025 as like one of my things on my wish list.
When they make Jack Della Maddalena defending against Islam Makhachev, whether that's October Abu Dhabi, NYC in November. We need Ilia Tapori in the front row. Do we need him coming in and facing off, even if that wouldn't be the next fight, just to continue to tell that story and build?
Listen, I know Dana was upset with Patty being in the cage. I wasn't. I thought that, not that he was my first choice for the title shot, but just that they were trying to promote that way. I was two thumbs up for me.
Bonnie Raitt, give him something to talk about.
Give him something to talk about. Yeah. Give them a storyline. Dude,
would you have consummated with her at her prime?
Who?
Bonnie Raitt?
No, dude, what?
I was wondering if you would give her something to talk about, okay? You know what I mean?
I'm not.
People are people talking about people, you know?
I'm not typically into banging hags, but,
okay, back to the MMA talk. Go ahead.
That really derailed me. Now I have to collect my brain. Okay, but to the point I'm trying to raise, I don't even need to sell the fight as a fight.
Yes.
But as an event, how big it could be. And
it's a rivalry. Let's go.
It's a rivalry, and it's one where, like, the stakes are obviously huge, but there's deep intrigue about the fight itself, too, and how it would go and what it would look like and just what it could do for MMA. Again, you can have your thoughts about the Trump thing at the UFC at the White House. That would be a big event. But I'm talking about, we couldn't figure out what fights would go on there because we're just trying to, like, noodle. This fight would be enormous in scale. BC, Ilia versus Islam in 2025, or let's say first quarter of 2026. How many pay-per-view buys does that sell?
It's hard to say in modern times.
Yeah.
Especially two guys who are just hitting Tapori is just hitting the early peak of his true crossover stardom.
Yeah.
Islam has had that Habib rub and made it his own as pound for pound king for a while. I don't know if that's the right decider on how big this would be in the modern day because, did you hear what DC said publicly? He doesn't think any fight is going to get above.
But people have been complaining about piracy since the invention of piracy.
So that's not necessarily but my thing is, like, if UFC is going to Netflix in some form in their next deal, which seems likely, that is the kind of fight to kick off that era.
You're so right.
In a damn
you're
dome.
so right.
Yeah,
you're so right.
And it's not OBC, you're always rubbing pro wrestling back on this. Guys, promotion is pro wrestling. Fight promotion is, right? Like, that's what it is.
One of the hardest.
There's the pageantry, the sport, the storytelling, the getting people to care about two people's stories that are coming together to consummate it and figure it out, right? We don't know if we're fucking or fighting. No, we're fighting. That's what we're doing. Get people involved in those stories, right? That's how you sell fights.
I didn't get to the sport via pro wrestling. I got to it through martial arts. So it took me a while I was in denial about this for a long time. MMA is real pro wrestling. That's what it is. It's obviously real. It's obviously unscripted. It's obviously a real sport. And you can enjoy it however you want. But the model that it's based off of is pro wrestling. They just made it real. So why not lean into that a little bit, especially when you've got basically number one, number two in the freaking world, in this particular instance, fighting.
All right, let's go to my number, and that's your list is great. It's all optimistic stuff that we want, we need. I'm still yet stuck trying to fix the issues in the sports with my three optimistic hopes. And my number 3 is the separation of church and state and combat sports between boxing and MMA, and world governments. It is out of control right now. And it's not just the right-wing evil march of Trump in, whether you love it or you hate it. It's just like, let's get back to the fights. I'm sick of that every week we're talking about the effect on this certain fight. What does that have on the sports washing of this nation? Or how close are we to UFC Moscow with Putin and Kadyrov cage side? Luke, we are at a point where it's never been, I want to say it's never been this colluded, of this much of a marriage, but that's not always true, because whether it's the Rumble in the Jungle or the Thrill in Manila, a lot of those fights are going to those exotic nations for political reasons, but it's become a headline story in everything that we do. And maybe some of that is on us to not harp on that and push that aside and focus more on what we're actually here for, which is the fights, the fighters, and the storylines and all that. But I'm really sick of government contracts and, we're going to this scary nation just because they paid us more. And what am I asking for that to end? Maybe some of it is just our focus on it. But using combat sports as a way to further political strategies, whether it's this nation or others, I don't like the taste of that in my cup of tea. Okay, I'd like to get away from that. Is that possible?
I share your hope. I would like to have a show where we could just focus on that and that'd be the only storyline. And to an extent,
but some of that is on us.
For sure. Oh, a lot of it is on us.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
but some of it is, it's hard to look past the glare of that sometimes. It's just...
Yeah, the reality also is, but this is the problem. The problem is, like, once you know how the sausage is made, it's hard to unsee it.
Yes.
And, I get that there's going to be, the vast majority of fans are just not going to care about that stuff, and I totally get it, and I understand, and we don't need to bring it up anymore, especially for today's show, which has been a lot of it, but it is a real part of the fight game. And it's, to your point you raised, go back and look at the, what was the Ali Foreman documentary, When We Were Kings?
Yes.
Right? And you can see how much the government at the time of Zimbabwe was playing a role here in
Zaire.
Zaire. I apologize. Yeah, it was in Kinshasa, right? So you could see how much of a role that was all being played. It's not new. It's absolutely not
Same
new.
thing with the Thrill in Manila.
But the degree to which the volume has been turned up more recently, that is kind of new. Yeah.